Hello, my name is Melissa Newman, and today I have come on to talk about breaking through fears and consciousness rising. So, this is on the back of my YouTube video earlier this week, and today, particularly, I felt guided through my morning meditation as I felt a strong presence with Mary Magdalene to share a message with you. And it is in regards to breaking through fears and by giving some clear examples to help you become a stronger anchor to the wisdom of your own inner truth with the current, what I would say, challenges that you might have going on in your life at this moment. So I just want to bring Mary Magdalene's energy in. So this is Mary Magdalene. If some of you aren't really familiar with Mary Magdalene, she's part of the Oracle deck that I have from Kyle Gray, and this particular deck is for these of the Ascended Masters, which is a really strong path of guidance that I'm on with Ascended Masters at the moment. So this message has been instigated by Mary Magdalene, and I'm about to explain what that is. So the question to you, so this morning, let's go back a little bit. I was in meditation and I felt a strong presence of spirit with me and knew instantly it was Mary Magdalene. And so it brought up the question of how well are we learning to remain conscious in the face of insurgencies, threats of war, advertising, power games, and political manipulations. So that particular line came out of a book that I have, that I was guided to at the end of my meditation, Crystal Masters 333, sorry. That is my master number. These numbers resonate very strongly with my soul contract for this lifetime and my I don't know, the birth numbers. You have birth numbers. Anyway, so that message came out of this book, that question: how well are we learning to remain conscious in the face of insurgencies, war actions, advertising, power games, and political manipulations? So as I can see, there is a lot of collective fear, and rightly so, with everything that's going on in the world around us today. But how do we navigate these? And so the message is to bring awareness and a reminder to us all, myself included, that we need to be strong anchors of light, standing firm in our centre whilst all the hoopla is going on around us. So today you will find I'm going to refer to my notes because this is an important message and I really wanted to be clear. I wanted to be able to stay on track with the message and bring through just exactly what I felt needed or felt that I was shown what to bring through, which is aligned to my current experiences. Otherwise, I can't speak on it, right? So everything I do is through my lived experiences. So in meditation this morning, I'm going to get started now. I felt a strong presence of spirit with me. I knew instantly it was Mary Magdalene. After expressing some gratitude for her presence, I always know that there's either something for me to know, learn, or understand. And so I asked, what was my soul ready to hear or know in this present moment? And then I continued to remain in the stillness and the silence of my heart. And sometimes the messages will come straight in, or I know that they may not come for another couple of days. So that's been my journey anyway. So it doesn't always come instantly. But anyway, so I continued meditating and doing what I do. When I finished meditation, I felt compelled to pick up the Oracle deck and Mary Magdalene popped out. And then read that message, resonated what that meant for me, and there was personal learnings, but there was also a very strong and clear message for me to talk on what I'm about to talk on today. After my meditation, my book was sitting to the side, and without even really thinking about it, I just went and picked it up. And then as soon as I held the book, the energy was insane. So it took me to, because this book is about different masters that have been on this earth, that have lived the human experience and now ascended masters, because they've been able to transform themselves out of the fear-based living and ego self into that higher consciousness. So they're great masters, and this is the path that I find that I'm on. And so in this particular book, each of the masters bring forth quite in-depth messaging and teachings. And so it was just interesting. I knew exactly when I started reading that particular sentence, how well are we learning to remain conscious in the face of all of these uncertainties and fear-based programming. And so I knew straight away then the further messages came of what I needed to bring forth. So after reading quite in depth the information and that question that jumped out, I was next then given flashes of my own life experiences, and then I heard in words Mary expressing what needed to be brought through for everyone. I think I'll take a deep breath because I feel like there's a bit to come through, and I just want to be relaxed with this message. I guess that's, I always want to come through with the right intentions. Everything that I bring through is not of an ego base, and so I'm always mindful. And it does tend to make me a little bit nervous because I want to speak my truth, and I want to relay the truth and not fall into the space of egoic projections. So at the moment, I'm feeling a little bit nervous to bring this message through because it is sharing some of my personal experiences. There's 3 key moments that I will speak on in a moment. So with that being said, I'm just going to trust the process and know that what I've written down is exactly what you need to hear. So I was given flashes of my own life experiences, 3 key moments to be exact. And the key moments in my life was where I was really confronted by the most challenging of fears for me in each of those given moments. And so the teachings is to show you from those experiences 2 things: how I used my spiritual knowledge to be able to pull me out of those experiences or realities, and how to show you how I used trust with what was being thrown at me. So the wisdom learnings that came through was one experience in 2017. That was the 0 point and the passing of my son. So the second one was another experience in 2022, and that was the psychic attack, and how we need strong discernment when we're coming into our spiritual awakening. And the third main key moment that stood out was my experience in 2023, and this was most definitely felt like another dark night of the soul moment for me. Not quite the same as the passing of my son, but this was a point even on my spiritual path where I almost gave up, or at least felt like wanting to. I felt I was done with the teachings, the initiations, and I was done with trying to keep the faith and the spiritual path. Keeping the trust with the spiritual path and what I was experiencing. I felt in those initiation or that particular one, the learning from that, it was definitely an experience of another layer of my identity stripping from me. And if you understand what it means to free ourselves of the egoic self, it's actually very deep. So when we're on the process of trying to free ourselves of the egoic self, it really is truly moving out of living so connected to the external environment and coming into our centered self. And it's living a life that is heart-led. But before it takes a lot of unlearning and relearning and letting go of our fears and facing our fears to get to our most heart-led self, which is a higher consciousness, which that higher consciousness, the more free of the ego that we are more living from our heart chakra, our throat chakra, third eye, and connected beyond. And there's levels of that consciousness, even to attain in that, in those experiences of being. But most of us, excuse me, are living our lives from a denser, which is the fear-based living from the fears of our root chakra, our stability. So that could be for us financial security, job security, life security, everything that we've created around us as our reality of what life is. And then the other areas is our sacral chakra and our solar plexus. Now, the solar plexus and the spleen as well are the two areas where all of the external world comes into us as an energy and an attachment, or cords is another way of seeing it. So without getting into all that, that was just, I don't know, just felt like, anyway, that was an ad hoc share. So that third main experience in 2023 stood out. So that particular experience was uncomfortable. I'm just going to go back for a second because I just hope I didn't miss something there. Nope, that's good. I just thought I jumped ahead for some reason. Probably just putting myself off track. So those three key moments. So this is how I'm going to share with you now how we can face our fears in those moments, how we can access our spiritual knowledge and learnings as we're progressing along our path of expansion, and how do we trust in those moments that are given to us. So sharing these in detail, it is in the hope that you are able to draw some parallels to your life experiences and current fears that you might be going through at the moment, and how you can anchor in faith and trust with everything that's happening around you at the moment. So, or at least this might help you reflect. It might help you reflect on how you might be reacting to life or responding to life and all the hoopla. So I'm just going to go, because it sort of brought up a conversation I had this week with somebody, and an individual was expressing their concerns with the imminent World War III, how crazy this world is, and da 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 da. So a bit of it's a story, right? We can create a story from that. That story can keep us in that mode, the fear of victimhood as well. if we're creating a story from it. And I do agree. Like, I know there's a lot of unrest in the world, and I think this is what important to share, because I even actually later reflected on the conversation. But I feel myself, whilst there is a lot of unrest, I actually feel firmly excited that it's a good thing, because it is the collapsing of the old. It is the collapsing of all the power struggles and everything that has kept us fitting into a box in a certain way of living. But as I expressed positively my stance and my viewpoint on this density that's around us and the concerns this person was also expressing, what I noticed was it appeared to be hard for others to maybe believe that I could be so anchored and not fearing these projections around me, the projections of advertising, power games, political manipulation struggles, imminent war, etc. And this is what then, because I noticed that, it then encouraged me to relook at myself and reflect on why I felt so unbothered by the hoopla going on around us, which helps me sort of understand where I am in the present moment. And it was quite simply because I've spent the past several years deeply accelerating my state of consciousness and connection with myself and spirit. I know in this very moment, in my heart, I am safe and I am always protected, and there is a greater plan unfolding so we can all eventually live in unity and peace. I really feel that. I do feel that strongly, and it's because of my experiences that I feel that I can say that. It's because of the inner wisdom that I've been able to reach, and it's not the final level of consciousness for me to reach in saying that also. I just know I'm very present. I've made it my practices every day of living in the world a very present experience. So I'm very mindful of my thoughts. I'm very mindful of my words that I express. I'm very mindful of my actions, never to bring hurt or harm to another. And so being truly present daily, I've been able to reach a level of personal power and spiritual power within. That's what I feel. I do believe that. And to get to this level, it hasn't been easy. I'm not going to say that it's been an easy path. It did require a high degree of personal consciousness and groundedness. One, to neither resist my fears and nor collapse into fears, whether they were my own or a collective consciousness with the external world. So I know that. And I guess even all of my videos this year, if you've sort of been following along, you'll see the common thread with my messaging. So these examples of my life challenges in 2017, 2022 and 2023 are the ones that I felt guided to share. So the dark night of the soul experience in 2017, the passing of my son. So most of you all understand from previous videos, my social media messaging, including if you've been on my website, the depth of my experience. So I don't really feel I need to elaborate on that experience. However, it was the absolute turning point in my life that catapulted me into my spiritual renewal and transformation of myself. And that's never ending. 2022 was the experience of psychic attack. It was when I came into my gift of being able to do land clearings from dense energies and entities. And it was the first real, I think, beginning of my spiritual path, with knowing I was directly being guided by one master, being Goddess Kali. And this is when I had continued connections with Yeshua. So Yeshua started coming more in, especially through this psychic attack experience, which I'm about to share a little bit with you. But this particular experience and journey, whilst going through the psychic attack and land clearings and entity clearings, also led me to journey to India. And that's when I went to India, travelled for 3 months, stayed there in an ashram. And then towards the end of that trip, I received an activation that actually would, as I now understand it, has become a part of my work as a spiritual teacher that is evolving, but more so my grief therapy work, the process that I take people through on the mentorship. So that's where that was activated. 2023, I had another initiation. This was most certainly facing fear dead on. It was another layer of identity stripping for me, the ego self. It was also when Kali was kind of starting to move out of being my spiritual teacher, and Yeshua and Paramahansa Yogananda fully anchored in to guide me further on my path. So Yogananda with Yeshua have become my next spiritual teachers and guides to take me to obviously another level. And that's one thing that I said in the video this week, is when we're on our path of spiritual expansion, all of the masters and the guides and the gurus will come to us because they've got unique skills to be able to teach us for any given moment that we're in on our path. And remembering that these ascended masters have lived on earth. And I think that's pretty important in some ways, I think, because they know what it's like to be human. So what I'm going to say is I like that, because in my work to help guide people on their journey out of the trauma loss and everything, I'm a firm believer that unless you have walked the path fully and done the work yourself, I feel like you become such a strong advocate to be able to lead other people through that journey. Because all I see is that when I was in my experience, I would have loved to have had that mentor to be able to lead me, because they've been there, they've done that, they've gone through that experience, they've gone through the learnings, they've gone through, and it makes it easier when we have someone that's been there. It doesn't have to be so hard. And this is what I find with ascended masters and gurus, is the ascended masters have walked this earthly plane. And so they've been through the experiences, they've been through the trenches. And on my path in particular, because I am aiming for a high level of consciousness, a cosmic consciousness, that's pretty huge to attain for this lifetime. But these masters in any given part of our path will come in because they've got the skills to show us what we need to learn for any progression. They are skilled to be able to teach us what we need to teach. So at the moment, I'm now being guided and led by Yogananda and Yeshua, with other spiritual masters coming in at different points. at smaller intervals to help guide me, give me they're like smaller learnings. And so that's what that is all about. So that's kind of what happened with that experience, a further stripping, and it wasn't comfortable, I can tell you. At last year, I wanted to give up. I was just like, I felt like I was done on this path of going through initiations and trying to be the highest light possible. This is why I'm a firm believer that anyone on this path, truly on this path, doing the work day in, day out, and digging deep, it's not for the faint-hearted. So that's where I believe in that phrase. And so the question, or the two questions to those three experiences: how did I use spiritual knowledge to pull me through those experiences? And how did I trust what was being thrown at me? So I'm going to elaborate. I just need a drink of water. So in 2017, how did I use the spiritual knowledge to pull me through that experience of grief and loss and my son passing over? Well, to be honest, I was actually not spiritual by any words of the expression. I literally had lived developed a motto. Kindness was the best way to be in this world. If you're always kind and loving, then you can't go far wrong. That was pretty much my spiritual belief. I was not religious. I'd lived my life up to that point where I'd walked away from any form of religion. But in that experience, how did I trust that experience of the dark night of the soul with what was being thrown at me? Well, all I can say to that experience was it was a deep trust within. All my life up until that point, I always felt I was following a star. I felt like there was a deeper purpose and meaning for my life, but yet I could not pinpoint it for the life of me. So this was that catalyst moment, that really 0 point that stripped me to really dig deep and find what that star, what that purpose was for me. And in some ways, it kind of felt a little bit cliched, finding our life purpose. And I remember people used to go, oh, your life purpose, there's no such thing. But I actually knew. So that's what sort of got me out of that moment, just that absolute knowing in my soul that there was a greater purpose to that experience. Well, there had to be, right? There had to be. It was pretty intense. So at that soul level of trust and knowing, I knew that higher purpose and meaning was my guiding light. It was the one thing that gave me the ability to rise through my adversity, even when I didn't know how to rise. The only tool I had, knowing that with that trust, all I could do was take 1 second at a time, because when you're in that depth of loss, you really can only do 1 second at a time. And that might sound a little bit odd, but it is so true. What that looked like for me, once I decided that, all right, I know in my heart there's got to be something good about this, then I was like, okay, that then gave me enough motivation and hope to go, okay, well, tomorrow I'm going to get up, and if all I do is clean my teeth for that day, then that day was a good day. And I did this day after day until I built up enough strength and resilience that something else would come in, and on and on went my journey. So for that particular experience, I didn't really have spiritual knowledge to draw upon. All I drew upon was the deep inner knowing. So I want you to keep that in mind for yourself. You might not be religious. You might not feel that you're spiritual, but we are soul beings. And then you do have that guiding light within you. And I want you to follow that. Follow the seeds of your soul that is guiding you, even when it seems ridiculous. Like I said in my other video, when I got the seed to read the book of sacred geometry, I just followed the seeds. So then moving on to 2022, I'm going to speak a little bit ad hoc here, but this was about the psychic attack, the land clearings and Goddess Kali, and more visions and experiences with Yeshua in my dreams. So this experience, I'd already now traveled a couple of years on my journey. I was so deeply yearning to understand lots, whatever I could understand with the spiritual mysticism and life after death, where do souls go in the afterlife, all of that stuff. It really opened up. It really actually opened up my path. And then I was really eager to connect to spiritual groups. And this is when I didn't really, I guess, discern too well, because I went into the spiritual groups thinking everyone was all of the highest intentions and love, and that was my error. So I crossed paths with someone, and I actually had known this person for quite a long time, actually. And I don't want to. So I had known. All I'm just going to say is I had known this person for quite a long time, and I didn't actually have concerns that there would ever be anything untoward. So I guess I let down my discernment levels, sort of like dropped way back. And I really was, because I was eager to learn about through anyone really. Some people, that are further on the path. I wanted to learn from them. They've been there, they've done that. Like, that just seemed to make sense. And what this person was communicating, I was like, no way, wow, this person's really interesting. And so the friendship kind of developed, and I developed a level of trust, probably more than I should have, because I didn't actually realize that there was a false motive on their part. So their actual mission within the spiritual community, and this is normal, it's not a bad thing, because this is us living out our shadow self and our light selves. Some of us are going to live out more our shadow self, and there's others of us that want to actually live from our light self, okay, our highest conscious self. Both serve, because one, I wouldn't be where I am without my lessons. So those shadows and the experiences of the shadow selves of other people is actually for our growth. So, and to this, now sitting where I sit, I'm actually very grateful for the experience. But what actually happened, so I'll try and keep this brief so I don't get off track. So what had actually happened is this person, I thought, was actually who did do forms of healing work, had actually been, so I'll give you an example, have to give you an example. This person, whenever we would connect and hang out, so to speak, would all of a sudden start doing energy healing on me. And at first I was like, oh, really? What are you doing? I don't know what you're doing. And would stand at my chakras, front or back, and start projecting. Now, I actually just always thought they were actually doing good, but in actual fact, they actually created a lot of portals of entities attaching to me. They created a lot of portals on my property and had invited in. It ended up being my property ended up being a very toxic environment where I had dark entities coming from everywhere, coming and leaving. It actually got so toxic. And I'm just not sure how much of this to actually share. So when I was thinking there was all these, when this person was standing on my property, for example, and doing energy things to the land and stuff, I honestly believed they were creating good. I had no other reason to think otherwise until the behavior of this person started changing. And anyway, so in a nutshell, all these portals were opened on my property. And then I was having experiences with the entities. So the entities started then coming in and affecting my well-being. These entities started coming in and affecting my property. I was having problems after problems with things breaking down on my property. It was ridiculous. And it got to a point where I then finally questioned, what the hell is actually going on here? This is not normal. And then when I started questioning, I started opening my eyes more. And in short, this was like over a space of several months that this had taken place, and it had gotten to a point when I started questioning what was happening, and then started seeing a change in behavior with this person. Then when the entities were coming into my home, I was literally seeing them come and go through the home. I got concerned. Now, when I first moved in, I'm just going to add, when I first moved into my property, I knew there was Indigenous connection to the land. The Indigenous spirits most definitely let me know that they were there, but I wasn't afraid. I've never actually been afraid of spirit. I believe I've had encounters over my lifetime, and I've actually always had a curious mind about them, but yet from a respectful place as well. So I knew Indigenous, and I thought, well, maybe the Indigenous are really unhappy about something. And then I was having all these dreams, and I started, in one particular dream I had, it was phenomenal. So in my dream, I woke to what felt like I was transported into an experience. I was teleported. All of a sudden, on my property in this dream, I had so many light beings surrounding my property. Because I was sleeping at the time, and I was sort of waking up into my dream and then coming into consciousness from that dream. When I was in the subconscious viewing, I had Yeshua on my property, and there was so much light pouring down into my property. And I was next to Yeshua, and I remember in my dream, I kind of looked and I went, oh my God. And I'm like, what's happening? Where am I? And register. And I didn't feel frightened at all. I felt so safe. And next thing, I was also projecting the light onto the property. And then there was a message that came from that dream. I think it was within that dream. It could have been a dream following, but it said I had created a spiritual warfare. When I got that message, I was like, what? How did I create a spiritual warfare? Like, it's further from the truth. I came to that land with such love. And anyway, it took me on this journey. I needed to find out what was going on. So I thought I'd created a spiritual warfare with the Indigenous. It ended up being men's land. So months and months and months went with all these different encounters, all these different dreams. I thought, holy shamoles, what's going on here? What do I need to do? I really wanted to fix anything that I needed to fix, but I didn't know what I was fixing until time came. And this is when I was getting all these seeds. I was following all my messages, and I was led to Kalima. I just said one day, I said, okay, Spirit, you need to show me what I need to do. I have no idea what this is, what's happened, how I possibly created it, because I certainly didn't believe I did. I said, please bring me the people that can help me understand what's going on so I can just do whatever I need to do to fix this. And I would talk to the Indigenous. I called upon the guardians of the land, and so forth. And next, synchronicities happened. The people just popped up that I needed to communicate with, and I got the messages that I needed to receive, because my intuition and all of my connection with spirit at this point was still growing. It was still a journey where I doubted a lot of stuff that I was receiving or seeing, and I was still trying to trust this path, to be honest. And so I followed the seeds, I followed the synchronicities, I took every action on people coming in to share messages. For example, one of these messages that came through, a dear friend of mine kind of just rang up and said, hey, I think I need to kind of tell you this, and told me some stuff. And I was just like, yes, I do. And I shared what was going on, and I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And anyway, I took their wisdom, took the message that they received that they needed to give me. There was another person that this came from. There was a third person, and on kind of went my journey. I got to a point that I understood what needed to take place. I got guided to have someone also come to my property and do an energy check of the land. This guy was amazing. I probably should share his information. I'll put it as a link. But this guy ended up doing a clearing of my property, and what he told me, what he saw that had been open on my land, confirmed everything that I was seeing in my dreams. And I was just like, but I didn't know to the to the length of toxicity that had been created. In some ways, because I feel I am a light being. In some ways, I feel I was most definitely being prevented from stepping into my power because I was so adamant. I am adamant with my path of self-realization. And so going back to people in communities, in the spiritual communities, and why we need to discern, there are going to be beings there that are going to pull us light beings down. They will pick anyone that's potentially vulnerable and easy to reach, and so forth. I do believe that was a part of that I couldn't step into my power, because sitting here now and knowing potentially what I'm being guided towards with the Ascended Masters, to come into my highest gifts, most definitely I would be seen as someone that needs to be taken down before they're at their highest level. Let's take this person down now, this light being down now, before they get into more powerful positions of their inner knowing, their inner light, their self, their personal power. That was definitely what was happening, or what had happened. But it was also an activation for me. And so I guess without sharing more of that journey, once I understood what needed to happen, I was then didn't realize I had the gifts of being able to do land clearings, but I again said to Spirit, right, I am going to clear this land. I will do whatever it takes. I will face this fear. I will face these entities, and we will shut this down. And that's what I did. But I couldn't have done it without Kali Ma. Goddess Kali is the slayer of demons. And she was my spiritual guide from that moment through that experience, and for a year following that experience. She has taught me so much. She has taught me so much about facing fears. Maybe why I have to share this video as well, because I actually have walked that path and faced those fears. So that experience, what I had to do, just to explain, I ended up with 2 other people supporting me, becoming pillars for me. We had 3 pillars anchored. We did 3 strong meditations, each from our locations, to anchor in the light, to anchor in Kali's energy. And I actually had to create a whole meditation and intention focus to actually break down this portal. So it was over 3 nights. It was at the same time each night we had a script to follow. The girls supported me in that process. I got guided. It was synchronicity that these 2 beings were brought to me. And that was a massive journey. That lead up until that point, it was fearful. I was dealing with dark, heavy stuff. Ooh, and this is where I have a level of respect. So I knew that it needed a level of respect with what I was dealing with, but also I had 1,000% knowing that I was protected like nothing else. And so that's actually what actually allowed me to do what I needed to do. It was my 100% knowing from my dreams, from all of the synchronicities, how protected I was. This was not just me. This was Kali. This was Yeshua. This was thousands of light beings. Oh my God, I've never seen anything like it. Around my property, I created this huge portal actually that extend further than just my property. And we closed it down. It was amazing. And then what actually happened and transpired that next day was, I have never experienced such bliss. I know I was given a huge thank you from Spirit, based on what I felt that morning. It was phenomenal. So my learnings in that particular experience, how did I use spiritual knowledge to pull me through? How did I trust what was being thrown at me? I trusted all the guidance. I knew 1,000%. I trusted the visions. I trusted my dreams. I trusted every odd thing that came my way, message, person, whatever it was, animal, spirit. I trusted everything, and I just really grabbed a hold. But I also actually had to keep so much. It was actually really taxing on my energy, because for a solid month, maybe two, actually, I had to keep so much light happening and stable and anchored on that property. For me to be able to do that, I was pumping out the most positive music. I was singing to the top of my lungs so that I could not be sucked into the dense energy, because they were trying to pull me down. They were making my life difficult. They were causing havoc at my home, and it was scary. I'm not going to lie. And I just held trust. I just held to that knowing. I held to my vision, and I just kept pumping out the positive light that I could. Even my sleep, like, I had to surround myself with so much protection, like, so that in my dreams, because they were trying to come into my dreams, they did twice, and it wasn't nice. So I knew this was serious, but I trusted my knowledge that I'd learned up until that point, everything that I had learned and everything I was learning on the job. Oh my God, I was literally learning on the job and didn't realize, what I could actually do and the gifts that I actually had. And it was phenomenal. And it opened up more of my gifts, that experience. I didn't think that was going to continue to be a part of my journey, but it has been in small doses. And I think the reason is because, one, I have a level of respect of darkness. It's not pleasant. It's not by any means pleasant. It does pull us down deep into fear if we let it. But I have so much knowing, inner knowing, and now that is just like, that's 1,000 times more than it was 2 years ago. Wow, that has grown so much. So that's what that experience taught me. And then it really opened me up to my path further of spiritual expansion. And so that continued. So then I continued, I went to India, wasn't actually really sure. So that guided me to India. Oh wow, we're already at 55 minutes. Okay, I need to try and finish this up. So that guided me to India. That guided me to more activations. So I won't explain what India entailed, but that journey now with India is a part of my journey, taking clients back to India who have completed the 12-month mentorship. There's an activation for those souls who have done the deep dive, if they're willing to go on that journey further. So that's what India was all about. It activated me into more of my journey and being able to come into the role of a spiritual teacher. And that's actually really unfolding more now. Probably, I feel like I know now there's things changing. And that was part of the message with Mary Magdalene. The teacher awakens. That was my personal message. The teacher awakens. I'm actually now feel I'm being now guided to go into more roles, and it's kind of this sharing my experiences, because I have done the work. I have walked the path. I'm continually walking the path. But anyway, moving on to 2023. Another initiation. I've been on my journey, continuing my journey, kind of living in the world, creating my business, bought a new home and location for me to live after I actually sold my other home, and left that land better than what it was. And and I was on my journey, doing my thing, learning what I needed to learn, going through the soul lessons, nowhere near as intense as what they had been up until that point. There were still some traumas and things coming through for me that I was being encouraged to release more of my fears and so forth. But I was in a position where I felt like everything was falling into place, everything was wonderful, and felt like I was about to launch actually my mentorship this time last year. And well, no, Spirit had other ideas. I was absolutely gutted with this experience. I really thought, what is actually happening here? Am I creating this? What is happening? It was an experience I didn't expect, but it was most definitely another acceleration on my path, and this is what this path is all about. So 2023, it was another initiation. I really had to face some fears dead on. It was another layer of my identity stripping, just when I didn't think there was more to go. I say that jokingly. This is where Yeshua and Paramahansa Yogananda most definitely transitioned as my new spiritual teachers and leaders. This is when I'd already started feeling, not really feeling Carly much anymore. And I wasn't really sure why. She was always there. I knew I could always call upon her. Wasn't really going through heavy stuff, so I didn't feel. And I was like, but there was just like a knowing that she was stepping back. I'm like, okay. And yeah, and then it was like, hello, we're here. So I'm a bit hesitant to share what exactly happened because I don't want to bring that energy in again. So I just moved into my new home. I think I was here for a couple of months. I was setting everything up. I was all super excited. Things were just falling into place. My business was looking like it was about to just go to its next level. And then boom. So I had an experience in this world, a human experience that crushed me. I'll share parts of it because I'm mindful of time. So the experience took everything from me, as in identity. Actually, it's really important to share. Okay, here we go. So I became, so this is where I'm mindful of words. My experience meant that I had experienced a cyber attack. I lost I'd built up so much of my business on social media. I lost all my Facebook accounts, Instagram accounts. I lost absolutely every social media. Do you think I could get them back? Not even to this day. I lost everything on my computer, completely gone. All the work that I had created for 2 years, all the typing, all of my program that I wrote. I'd written so much for my mentorship, so much work that had been recorded and created because it was about to go live. Everything completely wiped. I lost all of my identity I had to get a new passport, had to get a new driver's license, I had to get a new phone, I had to get which was a new number, everything. I had to protect my identity. My identity. Me as a human being in this world. And it was actually interesting because this is actually what's playing out in the world at the moment. It actually taught me so many lessons of how important it is not to keep relying on this AI rubbish and control. This is just another form. We are giving away so much of our power. Anyway, I'm not getting into that. This complete stripping and feeling like my business and identity of my business and the threats that I was receiving, and the protection level that I had to go through to protect me as a being in this world was phenomenal. But this is what crushed me to my core, because I felt I was so aligned to my truth. I felt my business was about to go to the next level. I felt so in my personal power, and it was just like gone, just like that. And this is what crushed me. I thought, how did I get it wrong? Was I not on the right path? How could it just, none of it made sense. I'm like, none of it made sense. I was like, how could I be going through this after everything that I'd gone through to this point, especially the amount of work that I had done to rebuild my new identity of self without the ego attachments, I will add. And I knew I was on my path. There was no other way for me in this world. I knew this. I know this. Anyway, because everything was stripped, I even had to get a new computer. I've had to rebuild everything I just created. I lost even my website that I was creating at the time. I was gutted. This experience, I was like, I was torn. I'm not going to lie. Here I was with the amount of work that I had done on my path, the level of consciousness that I had reached by this point. And anyway, that experience I now had spent before I could even restart building my business. Everything had to be protected first. It certainly changed how I do things on such a different level. And anyway, before I could even do that, it was about 8 weeks where I had nothing to do day and night, nothing. I couldn't create anything. I couldn't type anything. Nothing was safe. I was going through all these fears of not feeling safe in the world. I had fears to face. And so it was about 3 days where I was unable to connect to my spiritual knowledge that I had learnt to this point, because I lost trust, I lost faith. I thought, well, what the hell? What am I going to do now? If this is not what I'm meant to do, what am I meant to do? So 3 days of just being quite angry, devastated, and so forth. I was like, what am I going to do? I was sitting there one day, and I looked to the side. I went, oh, there's a book there. I had this book sitting by my bedside table, trying to read for probably about 3 or 4 years. And every time I kind of picked it up, it just wasn't resonating. And I'm like, and I put it down and I wouldn't sort of go there. I looked at this book, and it was the book, The Autobiography of a Yogi. And I looked at Yogananda, who was staring right back at me. I went, oh, well, I've got nothing else to do. I might as well read you. And I picked up the book and I started reading. I was a little bit hesitant. I went, my heart wasn't in it. Well, that was a game changer for me. This book, a book that I hadn't been able to read for 3 or 4 years, that just kind of kept sitting there. Always kept it close for some reason. I don't know why I kept it close. I just always kept it there. So there was a deep soul connection that at some point that was going to come through. Anyway, so I picked it up and, oh my God, started reading. I could not put the book down. So many revelations, so much had taught me about this one experience, and where I was going was phenomenal. All of a sudden, I got the trust and the faith back and started working my way back. What was the learning? Well, I had to face the fears. I had to confront the fears, whatever it was that I needed to learn. Obviously, further attachment to the external world. I was working day and night to create my business. I was so passionate. It wasn't hard to do that because I love what I'm creating and have created. So I could sit there like Einstein and Shakespeare. I believe they were similar in you just immersed yourself in the most passionate work that you believe you have come here to do, which was creating my business at this point. And I so easily worked day and night. And so I guess I needed a healthy balance. And so there were many lessons that I learned through that experience. But after the third or fourth day, and then starting to read this book, then I started reaccessing my spiritual knowledge and my learnings to that point. And I actually could see like Yogananda was coming in so strong with his messages that I embarked on this path, a very personal journey with Yeshua and Yogananda to this day. And this is leading me into becoming a spiritual teacher, which is, I don't even know what that looks like yet. Not fully. I have inklings of what that looks like because I know what I'm remembering. And then I was able to begin to trust again. And so on my journey. And then since then, a year ago, I would say, to now, I've had to recreate my business. I had to retype everything. I had to start from scratch. I had to start all my social media from scratch again. That's exhausting on its own, right? You guys know in social media, it's hard to build up that community connection and that trust. And I actually didn't want to go back to my previous connections. So I've actually gone in with a different viewpoint, and I've actually created new connections. Some people have come back in, the ones that I feel, anyway, so I'll leave it there. And so I've had to restart. And in some ways it was just a little bit debilitating, but what's now unfolded has been phenomenal. So if that's the message of hope through my experience, through all of those experiences up until this point, even the last one last year, that whammy, when you don't think you're going to go through those deep learnings again, yeah, we do, especially if you're willing. If you're a willing participant, a willing human in this existence as a soul being, to live out your soul's mission and your path of soul mastery, which I am. I've actually expressed that so many times to Spirit. And because I do that, well, they're going to bring me the quickest turnaround to change what needs changing within me. And I'm actually grateful for that experience. And that's why I feel, because each time I come into a higher level of consciousness and presence, so each time I come into a higher level, what it's actually doing is it's raising my light. And this is why when I go back to the conversation I had with this person, this is why I can feel anchored in my truth and my knowing. But from that very last experience, I've learnt lessons even more, how to stand back from the challenges that we get. So when something comes in, I'm able to now, this is what I've learnt, is I can step back and go, okay, I can see what's playing out here. It's not feeling good. That's not my reality. So what do I now need to do? And this is my anchoring. I can actually stand in my presence and go and witness what, rather than react. I can respond from my heart. And this is each time the level, you get better at doing this, you get stronger at doing this. The challenges, oh gosh, like I don't always hope to have these challenging challenges, but knowing my whole life, I'm a resilient being. I know I can get through them. And I know it's because it's what I want. So I'm not going to lie to you. After all of my experiences up to this point, and that last experience that threw me for a six, it was definitely a big blow to my trust and faith and my spiritual path that I developed to that point. And after it taking me about 3 days before I could recalibrate my thoughts and not be a victim and look at what just had unfolded and just say, okay, Spirit, I trust you. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. I don't know. I even actually questioned whether I was going to continue with my business. I actually thought I was going to get pushed straight into spiritual teaching and my path was going to completely change. But no, my path was right on. It's been actually perfected somewhat, which is pretty amazing. My message is even clearer, and my teachings, that is my Soul Mastery Workbook, which is going to be a published book, is so much better than what it could have been. And that's what everyone keeps saying in the spiritual community. If you trust Spirit, they're going to guide you to something so much better. But you've got to trust that uncertainty. And so I read that book, The Biography of a Yogi, received so many revelations, so many teachings, and I've been on this spiritual path ever since of self-realization. And have not looked back since. So it's only through facing our fears dead on, through confrontation, backed by spiritual knowledge, with a strong anchor to our wisdom of our inner truth, can we neither resist nor collapse in those experiences. It is through trusting in the wisdom of ourselves and what we're learning and what we know is true that we can act then and be entrusted to be change agents for humanity rising. Because there's, I'm at a certain level and I'm not at the highest level, but there's people above me that I look to guide me. And so I'm that person for someone that's just on their journey. I can share what that experience has been like to trust on so many levels. And I believe this is what the spiritual teachings are now for me to bring through. I find it's just coming through strong that I need to get this out there. And I've been hesitant to do that. But I now, I have more trust and knowing that I'm safe to do that. And I'm doing it from a loving space, not from an ego space. So this is why I and many of you are being guided into higher levels of spiritual work. This is why humanity is being encouraged to face their fears, even people, I say it with absolute respect. Even people in Israel, they chose that path, okay, because there's a mission for them to learn as souls that, could you imagine? I can't even imagine. Like, we choose the countries that we live in. We choose our families. So if we chose that country, for example, then we chose because there are certain soul lessons we wanted to learn through that absolute density. Yes, it doesn't make sense. Like, that just seems crazy, right? I get it. But when you understand that life is just about our soul journey, navigating our shadow self, our fears, and being able to stand in our light. That's all it's about. And when we all can do it, then could you imagine all of the world coming into their light? What a beautiful world this is going to be. So as we are guided into higher levels of spiritual work, or at the very least, if we are feeling that there is something greater for you, as it was for me in my dark moment in 2017, or I've always known it my whole life, you know this too, that there is something greater for you. Please follow that truth. Follow your star. So this knowing that something purposeful is for you, it was my knowing in 2017 that pulled me out of the dark night of the soul. That's the one thing that pulled me out. With this level of acceptance, then, to step up with spirit as God calls us to serve, we are protected like nothing else. I know this. The masters and gurus will not have us hang out to dry when they are encouraging us to step up. They will hold us in the light in any given moment. We just have to ask. They cannot step in over our free will. And what I'm learning is that when we learn enough skills to dive deeper in this human journey of self, and we accept and allow those experiences to unfold, a willingness, then Spirit will encourage us and nudge us out of our comfort zones for the highest good of ourselves and all others. And I'm up for that acceleration. I always have been, even though I say that with trepidation at times, because I know what I'm agreeing to. So I will add that when we awaken, we can become more vulnerable to energies that is the shadow and the light of any of those energies externally and within ourselves. Those energies can be constructive and destructive. For me, this has been my calling with the entity clearings. It is something that I actually know that I am being called to do within this area that I live in now. But never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that this was a gift of mine. No way. In addition to everything that I've just said, I can honestly say it's not for the faint-hearted. Challenges for the more awake beings that we are and are becoming, and the more willing we are to work with spirit, and not always roses, not always easy. The willingness to be able to do that despite all that is because I have a deep understanding and a trust that with all my learnings and all my skills to this point, including the protection with spirit, I can do what I am asked to do, and so can you. So how do we take this into our lives? How do we take these learnings into our life experiences? So discernment is so important even in spiritual communities. Always, if something feels off, you need to question why it feels off. We need to lead from our hearts. If something is not right, then it's not of love and it's not connected to spirit. So then question why you might want to go further forward with that. Trust the seeds and the opportunities that come your way, as crazy as they might seem. So if someone said to me, oh, you should be an entity clearer or whatever, I would have said, yeah, no, what? I wouldn't have seen it as something. So if there's something that you have inklings for, follow those. Follow with your heart and not your head. Connect with spirit always. And if you feel a special bond with some of the ascended masters or gurus or whoever, angels, whoever it might be, start there. Start with that one connection. For me, I started out with the archangels and archangel oracle readings. And that's just led me to to being a really good, didn't realize, how good an oracle reader I am. Ask for guidance, because we need to ask, and the messaging will come. So if you need answers, why something might be coming to you at a certain given time, potentially there's a lesson to learn. Generally, a lesson to learn. We need daily protection. I cannot, at this present moment, with all this density, we need daily protection before you leave your home. You need to set protection for yourself. If you want tips on that, just reach out. I'm happy to help. It can be as simple as just asking angels. If you don't feel connected to any particular master or what have you, just ask, even dear God, universe, please protect me today from any energies that do not belong to me or will not serve me. It can be as simple as that. But it is paramount that you find a way every day to step away from the external world and drop into silence and peacefulness. That can be with nature. It could be just within a meditation that you might practice for yourself. As far as fears, we need to face the fears and not resist them, because the more we resist, they're going to keep coming back until you face it. Fears come in many ways, but I've just highlighted a couple of things here. So if you're experiencing any particular fear at one moment, notice what it is that's coming up for you. Acknowledge it, and then command. Okay, once you see that that's kind of not you, like as an example, a fear of judgment. Let's just say fear of judgment. That's a common one for everyone. People don't realize how much they either judge or are being or feel being judged. That's a huge one for everyone. Why am I feeling this? Why do I feel judged in this moment? What am I fearing? What hasn't been resolved? Where is this coming from? Where's the root cause of this? And sort of just, it doesn't even have to take long. You could probably spend 5 minutes just sort of going into that and just express, well, my reality, that's not my truth anymore. I will let it go. My reality only now consists of good, the highest truth, the highest love frequency, etc. The next important thing, which I've already tapped into other videos, is being mindful of all of your words, thoughts, and actions and behaviors. Wow, I cannot express this enough at the moment, because everything is manifesting so fast. And if we're in a negative mindset, oh my God, that is manifesting so much faster than it ever has in our lifetime. So our thoughts, like it could be as simple as most of us don't even realize the level of our thoughts and the detriment to them. It could be as simple, a common one, right, is when we look to others, we're judging how they dress, how they look. You might see someone and then a thought just kind of comes in and you're kind of sussing out how they look, how they dressed, how they compare to you. That's common. Well, the more that is coming from a place of not enough, feeling not enough yourself. It's a judgment. There will be criticism potentially attached to that. And so that's what you're going to keep attracting. You'll attract more experiences where you might feel people are projecting that to you. So your thoughts, your words, and your actions have to be 1,000% positive. Yeah, it's so paramount to be so mindful of what's leaving your body. Notice what's triggering you. Okay, in others. This is a big one. So if you get frustrated with a particular person or a place, notice why that is. Go in and reflect. Why am I triggered by this? Where has this happened in my life? And then it might even take you back to childhood memories where, you could have got yelled at and it instilled feelings of unsafety. So go back to those root causes. So notice what's triggering you in others, because it's generally your soul giving you a little nudge saying, hello, this is for you to work with. It's not them. There's nothing going on with them. This is in here. So you always got to come back to the mirror. Own what's coming in, learn and understand what the root cause is, and then forgive them. Be thankful for them showing you, and have forgiveness for yourself and compassion for where you are, and just say, hey, I'm not going to do this anymore. Okay, I'm not that person, because I know deep down in my heart I'm a loving person. I care about people. I care about animals. You know your truth. So come back into that each time and honor that. I accept and approve of myself. And remember, life is a constant and never-ending improvement of self if we are willing. It is, if we are willing, soul mastery at its finest, to move from fear into love, fear into love, fear into love. So I'm going to finish. This has been a biggie. Hopefully you have stayed with me. I'm just going to, but it might be too long. I'll read some snippets, and if you want a copy of it, I'll type it up and I'll send it to you. But I'm going to finish on a writings from Judith Kusel. She had written this years ago, and I keep certain things of her work. And so I'm just going to read out some of this, because whilst Mary Magdalene was the divine feminine coming in today, I believe at the moment there's an encouragement of divine feminine consciousness and encouragement to stand in our power. That's even for the males, for males to come into their divine feminine aspect of themselves. And so I'm just going to read some snippets, and it's called She Has Come Home to Herself. To all her for herself, her physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and soul self. She nurtures soul, her inner self, and she is intimate with all that is, and all which has been before and yet to come. She embraces her physical body in its entirety, and she refuses to negatively compare herself with others. I'm just going to give you the one line to each paragraph. She refrains from judging her body, nor hating, nor having hang-ups about it. It's her temple, and she honors the gift, and she honors its worth, and therefore she is very careful about whom she lets into her energy fields. She moves past her own fears. She is learning to love herself, warts and all that she or he is. She understands that every single thought will manifest her life, and therefore she learns to reprogram herself or himself, to not allow those negative thoughts and feelings to run their life or her life or his life, but that she runs her thoughts and expressions. She releases her hang-ups about money and releases all vows of poverty and begging, bowel syndromes, and the idea that a man should be the provider, vice versa. She has embraced her emotional body with the full understanding that whatever she hangs on to, grudges, anger, hurt or pain, victim mentality, remembering everything which ever came to her, she is poisoning herself or himself and her physical and soul bodies. She embraces the inner calm, the inner love, the inner balance, knowing that what is within herself, himself, will manifest outwardly. With her inner calm and serene, then the storms of life can become one with all. But she is anchored inside the eye of the storm and allows the rage outside, but not within. In that way, she can weather all storms and whatever else in the knowledge he is deeply anchored within, in the divine and within her soul and his soul, and that all else playing out around her or him is but a test, an illusion, an initiation, every honing of her inner soul strength and purpose, and always bringing her or him back to themselves. It goes on for another 2 pages, so I'll leave it there. So in this, she heals and empowers herself or himself and loves herself unconditionally and claims her worth and blazes new trails for humanity. She or he is paving the way for the divine feminine and the divine masculine to at last find each other again, and for the sacred union to finally bring wholeness to all of Mother Earth. Such is her calling. She lives with every breath she takes. She is, she becomes, she grows, she loves. Her own worthiness shines. So thank you for listening. I hope you reached it this far. I know it's a biggie, but I do believe there's a beautiful, important message, and lots of learnings can be received for us all. And it always serves me as a reminder to stay anchored in my truth. I give thanks to Mary Magdalene for guiding me and allowing me to be entrusted to share this message. And I say thank you and send you all love and blessings. Thank you for listening. If you like this, please like, share, or comment. Comments are good. It helps engage and create that engagement that we're not doing enough of. Just even to say hello. Thank you for listening.